For children growing up in the 1950s and 1970s, the image of George Reeves clad in his iconic red and blue suit, soaring through the skies to defeat villains and restore order to the world, stood as the ultimate symbol of courage. Yet when the velvet curtain of the studio fell, the world behind the adventures of Superman was far from pure glory. It was a realm of improvised tricks, dangerous accidents, and deeply personal tragedies that no young viewer could ever have imagined. 1. The Superman Curse, when the cape became a fatal chain. In the world of cinema, few roles have carried both dazzling fame and such haunting shadows as the superhero from the planet Krypton. The so-called Superman Curse is not merely a malicious rumor. It is a narrative woven from the very real tragedies endured by the men who wore the proud S emblem. George Reeves, the man who transformed Superman into a cultural icon during the black and white era, is often regarded as its first victim. Despite his leading man looks and a role in the classic Gone with the Wind, Reeves soon discovered that the cape had become a prison for his career. The overwhelming typecasting caused directors to turn away, reducing a genuinely talented actor to near unemployment, trapped within the very fame that once elevated him. His mysterious death in 1959, marked by a gunshot wound to the head, remains an open scar in Hollywood history. To this day, it raises an unsettling question. Was it the tragic escape of a tormented soul, or an unresolved act of foul play hidden beneath layers of silence? The tragedy did not end there. Decades later, the world was once again shaken by the fate of Christopher Reeve, widely considered the most definitive Superman of all time. A devastating horseback riding accident left him paralyzed, transforming the Man of Steel into a man confined to a wheelchair. The painful parallels between generations of Superman actors have led many to believe that some unseen force seems to follow and test the resolve of anyone who dares to embody the mythic power of the Red Cape. 2. When a superhero faced real fire, the dark side of 1950s glory. In the minds of millions of children, Superman's costume represented invincibility, a mythical armor immune to bullets and untouched by flames. Yet the harsh reality on set proved otherwise. The cape itself nearly became a deadly trap for George Reeves. During the filming of a dramatic scene involving artificial smoke and staged fire, a rare but terrifying accident occurred. Chemicals used to treat the fabric reacted violently with the intense heat emitted by high-powered studio lights. In an instant, real flames erupted across the shoulders of the Man of Steel, turning a fictional sequence into a life-threatening emergency. Panic swept through the set as crew members rushed to extinguish the fire with whatever they had on hand, most notably wet cloths. Disaster was narrowly avoided, but the incident left a lasting impact and served as a stark lesson in workplace safety. It also exposed a fundamental truth about 1950s television production. There were no computer-generated effects, no modern fireproof materials, only practical techniques built on risk, ingenuity, and the courage of those involved. To bring the dream of flight to audiences, artists like Reeves were not merely performing. They were placing their lives on the line with every glowing frame. 3. When a superhero emerged from the shadows. Episodes buried for being too violent. Few would imagine that before becoming a bright, child-friendly icon, the first season of The Adventures of Superman carried the unmistakable tone of film noir, dark, unsettling, and sharply edged. Instead of vibrant flights across the sky, early audiences were confronted with a world steeped in crime, shadowy basements, brutal confrontations, and chillingly cold executions. The peak of this intensity came with the now infamous episode, The Evil Three, where tension reached suffocating levels in a scene depicting water rising slowly to a victim's neck within a confined space. These stark and violent images sparked widespread outrage. Parents across the country voiced serious concerns, fearing that children might imitate the dangerous behaviors portrayed on screen. Under mounting public pressure, the show's sole sponsor, Kellogg's, issued what was effectively an ultimatum. The production team had to cleanse the content to make it suitable for younger audiences. What followed was a sweeping purge of the series. Episodes deemed excessively violent or psychologically disturbing were permanently removed from reruns, left buried in studio archives as relics of a time when Superman was far darker and more rebellious. This transformation did more than reshape the show. It established a lasting standard for the superhero genre, a necessary balance between action-driven storytelling and social responsibility toward its audience. 4. The illusion of flight and the price of danger. To bring the dream of flight to life on 1950s television, the creators of The Adventures of Superman relied on a rudimentary and perilous system of suspension cables. George Reeves was frequently hoisted into the air, suspended above unforgiving concrete floors with nothing more than a thin mat placed beneath him for protection. The inherent danger of this setup eventually led to a terrifying during the second season. A cable suddenly snapped under strain, sending Reeves crashing down in an uncontrolled fall onto the studio floor. The impact caused not only physical injuries, but also a profound psychological shock. From that moment on, Reeves firmly refused to perform any further wire-based stunts. Faced with this limitation, the production team devised an ingenious workaround. They constructed low steel platforms on which Reeves could lie, then combined this with carefully angled low shots and moving sky backdrops to simulate flight. From these technological constraints and a near-fatal accident emerged a crucial lesson in filmmaking: the art of illusion. Rather than relying solely on risky physical stunts, cinema began to embrace visual deception and creative staging as safer, more effective tools of storytelling. 5. George Reeves, radiant glory and the cage of artistic confinement. For George Reeves, the role of Superman was both a gateway to fame and an invisible abyss that consumed his broader artistic ambitions. The overwhelming success of the character created a powerful and limiting perception among filmmakers and audiences alike. They no longer saw a versatile actor, but a living embodiment of a superhero. The red cape, once a symbol of pride, gradually became a suffocating cage. Reeves found himself repeatedly rejected from serious film projects. Studios were unwilling to take the risk of casting Superman as a villain or a complex dramatic figure, effectively confining him to a single identity. His sudden death in 1959 was not only a profound personal tragedy, but also the definitive end of a legendary series. The connection between Reeves and Superman had become so inseparable that producers understood no one else could truly replace him in the hearts of the audience. He departed at the height of his fame, yet at a moment when his artistic spirit was deeply exhausted by frustration and limitation. Superman immortalized George Reeves in history, but tragically, that same brilliance cast a shadow over the artistic path he longed to pursue. What remains is a legacy both magnificent and deeply tragic, a reminder that even the brightest icons can carry the heaviest burdens. 6. The $130 Contract. The tragedy of anonymous creators. In 1938, two passionate young men, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, signed a piece of paper that would forever change the course of popular culture, yet proved to be a financial catastrophe for themselves. In exchange for a mere $130, roughly $2,800 today, and the promise of steady employment, they relinquished all intellectual property rights to the Man of Steel to National Allied Publications. As Superman rose to become a global icon, generating billions of dollars in revenue from comics, films, and merchandise, his creators remained underpaid employees, living in hardship and gradually fading into obscurity beneath the towering shadow of the DC Comics empire. The battle to reclaim justice for Siegel and Schuster became a long and exhausting journey, spanning decades of legal disputes that drained their time, energy, and resources. It was not until public outcry intensified, bolstered by support from the artistic community and the massive success of the 1978 Superman film, that DC Comics finally acknowledged them as the official creators and granted them a modest pension. This episode stands as a somber footnote in publishing history and a hard-earned lesson about intellectual property rights, reminding us that even those who create gods can be crushed by the relentless machinery of profit. 7. When a superhero collided with the Manhattan Project, National Secrets, and a banned episode. During the fiery years of World War II, Superman's cultural influence was so immense that even the United States War Department took notice. In 1944, an unusual incident occurred when writers developed a fictional storyline involving Axis powers wielding atomic weapons against the Man of Steel. Ironically, the script's detailed descriptions of nuclear chain reactions and destructive power bore an uncanny resemblance to the real-life developments of the Manhattan Project, the top-secret U.S. program to build atomic weapons. Fearing that such a storyline might inadvertently reveal critical scientific principles or spark public anxiety over a weapon not yet disclosed, the government ordered the plot to be indefinitely shelved. This marked one of the rare instances in history where a fictional character was forced to yield to national security concerns. The intervention not only underscored Superman's immense media influence, but also highlighted the uncanny foresight of comic writers, whose imagination had unintentionally brushed against the cutting edge of humanity's most dangerous technological breakthroughs. 8. Noelle Neal, the woman who pulled Lois Lane out of the damsel in distress shadow. In the golden age of 1950s television, when women were often confined to roles of gentle homemakers, Noelle Neal quietly ignited a revolution through her portrayal of Lois Lane. Rather than serving as a passive damsel in distress, Neal's Lois was a bold, resourceful journalist, unafraid to throw herself into danger in pursuit of the truth. She personally performed numerous physically demanding scenes, from being suspended high above the ground on cables to navigating through smoke-filled environments and executing daring leaps from elevated structures. Neal's commitment not only brought authenticity to the series, but also helped pave the way for professional stunt women in television. She demonstrated unequivocally that women possessed the strength and courage to perform intense, action-driven roles on par with their male counterparts. This shift challenged the restrictive norms of the era, transforming Lois Lane into a symbol of independence and bravery, and laying the groundwork for the empowered female protagonists that would come to define the superhero genre in the decades that followed. 9. When the dream of flight became a danger, the responsibility of a true superhero. In the 1950s, the allure of the red cape was so powerful that it blurred the line between fiction and reality in the minds of young children. Believing they possessed the same superpowers as their idol, a wave of tragic accidents occurred as kids attempted leaps through the sky, from rooftops, garages, and tall tree branches. Cases of fractures, sprains, and serious injuries surged dramatically, turning a symbol of hope into a growing source of fear for parents. Faced with this alarming reality, George Reeves proved that he was not only a hero on screen, but also a man of compassion and profound responsibility. Rather than remaining silent and allowing toy sales to skyrocket, Reeves took decisive action within the commercial sphere. He demanded that toy manufacturers immediately stop selling standalone capes, an accessory that could easily encourage children to believe they could fly on their own. Instead, capes were only to be sold as part of a full costume set, serving as a subtle reminder that this was merely dress-up play, not reality. Reeves' intervention stands as a rare moment in Hollywood history when human values and child safety triumphed over massive commercial profits, affirming the moral integrity of the man behind the Superman costume. 10. Steel muscles made of foam. The secret behind the heroic physique. In the memories of millions of viewers, the Superman of the 1950s possessed a powerful, muscular physique, an embodiment of the invincible strength of a man from Krypton. Yet beneath the iconic suit lay not the result of grueling physical training, but carefully sculpted foam padding sewn directly into the costume. In an era when dietary supplements and professional fitness regimens were not yet widespread in Hollywood, this was the only special effect capable of transforming an average-built actor into a godlike figure of strength. However, the price for this imposing appearance was physical torment for George Reeves. Under the intense heat of massive studio lights and the severe lack of proper ventilation, the foam padding quickly turned into a suffocating heat trap. It absorbed sweat and retained heat, leaving Reeves constantly exhausted and overheated during long filming hours. The actor once joked, "If the kids knew their hero was built out of cheap foam, they'd be terribly disappointed." Behind the humor lay a deeply human truth. To preserve the dream for children, the artist had to endure the most uncomfortable realities hidden beneath the illusion of glory. 11. There is only one Superman. When the audience decided the fate of the show. At a time when George Reeves began to feel exhausted and considered leaving behind the cape to pursue new artistic horizons, the producers quietly initiated plans for a major recasting. Confident that the Superman brand was strong enough to survive without him, they secretly organized auditions in search of a younger replacement. However, they gravely underestimated the emotional bond between Reeves and the audience. As soon as rumors of a replacement surfaced, an unprecedented wave of protest letters flooded the television network. Thousands of letters from parents, and especially heartfelt messages from children, formed a powerful backlash, all carrying the same uncompromising message. There is only one Superman, and that is George Reeves. The overwhelming public pressure was not only a branding warning, but also undeniable proof that Reeves had truly become the embodiment of the superhero in the hearts of an entire generation. Faced with the threat of widespread backlash, the producers were forced to abandon all replacement plans and negotiate to keep Reeves until the very end of the series. This moment stands as a powerful testament to a simple truth. Sometimes, it is the audience who ultimately holds the key to the destiny of a legend. 12. The Secret Bar, where the superhero took off the cape. Behind the wooden facades and scattered props of the Adventures of Superman set existed a hidden oasis, unknown to the audience, a discreetly designed private bar. In the rigid television culture of the 1950s, where superheroes were expected to uphold flawless, morally pristine images and were forbidden from showing fatigue or indulging in worldly pleasures like alcohol, this secluded corner became a sanctuary for the cast. When the studio lights dimmed, George Reeves and his colleagues would slip behind the backdrops to this secret bar, shedding their suffocating armor and returning, if only briefly, to being ordinary human beings. Here, the crushing pressures of relentless broadcast schedules, tight production budgets, and the anxiety of being permanently typecast were shared over quiet drinks. The bar was more than a place of leisure. It was a subtle act of rebellion against the overwhelming expectations imposed by the public. It reminds us that even those who bring dreams of superhuman power to the world still need a small, human refuge, a place to laugh, to vent, and to momentarily set aside the immense weight carried by the red cape. 13. When a superhero yielded to breakfast rules, the power of sponsorship. During the golden age of American television, Kellogg's was not merely a financial backer. It was the ultimate authority shaping every narrative decision. As a family-oriented cereal brand, it imposed strict and sometimes extreme standards of moral censorship to preserve Superman's purity. One of the most peculiar restrictions was that Superman was absolutely forbidden from sharing breakfast with Lois Lane. The sponsor feared that the image of an unmarried man and woman sitting together at a breakfast table might be perceived as overly intimate, or even morally inappropriate, by audiences of the time. This contradiction created an almost absurd reality. Superman could outrun a speeding bullet and possess strength greater than a locomotive. Yet he was completely powerless against Kellogg's breakfast table rules. Every action of the Man of Steel was scrutinized under the lens of traditional family values, where even the smallest glance or gesture had to be carefully calculated to avoid offending conservative sensibilities. While this level of control helped cement Superman as a symbol of absolute moral integrity, it also stripped away the most ordinary, human moments that might have made him feel more relatable on screen. 14. Look Up in the Sky, the anthem that defined every superhero. More than just a theme, the triumphant blast of trumpets paired with the iconic line, "Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman," became a cultural genetic code etched into the consciousness of generations. Its simplicity, combined with undeniable power, established a golden formula for superhero introductions across television and film history. It evoked wonder, sparked curiosity, and nurtured a childlike belief in the extraordinary within the ordinary world. The influence of this musical motif was so profound that it became a benchmark for future productions, from Batman to modern blockbusters within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Each time the theme played, it did more than announce the arrival of a savior. It opened a gateway, inviting audiences to step out of reality and into a world governed by justice and hope. This seamless fusion of music and narration transformed the opening of Adventures of Superman into an immortal symbol, a call to wonder that continues to resonate, decades later, every time the curtain rises. 15. When the Man of Steel became the first king of advertising. In the dawn of television, the boundary between storytelling and commercial promotion was often blurred, giving rise to a peculiar phenomenon: a superhero stepping off the screen to sell household products. With his warm, trustworthy voice and idealized appearance, George Reeves became the perfect spokesperson, convincing millions of children that the secret to Superman's extraordinary strength lay in eating peanut butter or taking daily vitamins. The image of humanity's savior standing in a kitchen, gently advising children on proper nutrition, created a powerful psychological connection that resonated deeply with parents of the era. In reality, these primitive black and white commercials were the first building blocks of the multi-billion-dollar superhero merchandising empire we see today. The strategic use of a fictional character's influence to shape children's consumer behavior marked the beginning of a new era in marketing. Superman was no longer just fighting crime to uphold justice. He was also carrying an immense mission, transforming the pure admiration of fans into tangible revenue for brands. This stands as one of the clearest examples of how the Man of Steel became an early and powerful instrument within the machinery of the modern market economy. 16. The Gray Superman, the visual secret behind black and white filmmaking. In the public imagination, Superman is forever associated with vibrant red and blue, colors symbolizing hope and justice. Yet few realize that if George Reeves had worn that exact costume on a 1950s set, he would have appeared dull and lifeless on screen. Under the cameras of the time, deep reds and blues tended to absorb light and translate into dark gray tones, erasing the contrast needed to define the character's physique. To solve this technical challenge, costume designers made a bold and unconventional decision. The suit Reeves wore on set was not red and blue at all. Instead, it was crafted from shades of light gray and earthy brown. Though unimpressive in real life, this unusual palette became the key to achieving sharp contrast and visual depth under powerful studio lighting. When translated into black and white film, these tones produced the clearest and most dynamic image, deceiving the eyes of millions and transforming an artificial costume into one of the most commanding and iconic representations of Superman in early television history. 17. The Daily Planet Newsroom, a cinematic illusion built from a single corner of the set. In Superman's world, the Daily Planet Newsroom is the bustling epicenter of breaking news and thrilling adventures. Yet behind the camera, this legendary setting was, in reality, confined to a single studio set, carefully designed to maximize limited production resources. To save both time and budget, the production team adopted an efficient assembly line approach. They gathered scripts from multiple episodes and filmed all scenes set in the newsroom in one continuous block. Actors would frequently change costumes to simulate different days, while the arrangement of props remained largely unchanged. Remarkably, audiences of the 1950s, still enchanted by the novelty of television itself, rarely noticed the repetition. To them, the Daily Planet remained a vast and dynamic newsroom, a testament to the ingenuity of staging and the filmmaker's ability to trick the viewer's perception. In an era constrained by financial limitations, creativity and technical finesse became the true special effects, bringing an entire world to life from a single corner of a soundstage. 18. Metropolis, when a comic book city steps into the real world. In the world of DC Comics, Metropolis is a sleek, futuristic metropolis where Superman fights for justice. Yet few realize that this name leapt off the printed page and became a real, proudly celebrated location in the state of Illinois, USA. In 1972, the local government of this small town was officially recognized by the state legislature as the hometown of Superman. But they didn't stop at a symbolic title. They transformed the entire town into a living museum. A towering bronze statue of the Man of Steel, standing over 4 meters tall, was erected proudly in the town square, accompanied by the Super Museum, which houses thousands of invaluable props and rare memorabilia from the 1950s television series. More than half a century later, Metropolis is no longer an obscure town. It has become a pilgrimage site for thousands of fans from around the world. Each year, the Superman Celebration Festival is held with great fanfare, drawing in those eager to reconnect with the vibrant memories of their childhood hero. The very existence of this town stands as powerful proof of the force of popular culture. When a character inspires deeply enough, they can build entire communities, transforming fiction into a tangible and immortal legacy in the real world. An immortal legacy, the cornerstones of a legendary empire. Looking back on the turbulent yet remarkable journey of the adventures of Superman, 1952, we come to understand that it is far more than just an old black and white television show. It is an epic ode to human creativity and perseverance at the dawn of the entertainment age. Despite being constrained by severe technological limitations, life-threatening on-set risks, and deeply personal tragedies behind the cape, the series still stands tall as a timeless monument. From crude wire rigs and cheap foam padding to cramped and minimalist sets, these pioneering filmmakers laid the most solid foundation stones for the billion-dollar superhero empire we see today. The legacy left behind by George Reeves and his team does not merely reside in archived footage. It lives on in the enduring belief in justice and hope shared by generations of viewers worldwide. They prove that the true power of a superhero does not come from dazzling CGI or cutting-edge technology, but from courage, conviction, and the ability to ignite dreams in the hearts of the audience. Even today, when people look up at the sky, they still silently thank the humble yet determined beginnings of the very first Man of Steel, the one who taught us how to fly through imagination and compassion, leaving an indelible mark on the ever-flowing history of cinema.